Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today's video is going to be a triple helping of gameplay where we had moments where it kind of makes or breaks the game through a decision that we will have and a situation that we will have to be able to get through. So today's video is hopefully going to be perfect for the players out there who are trying to figure out how do I get my win ratio from, say, 45% to 50%, or 50 to 55, or 55 to 60. Now, the difference in win ratio between 50 and 55 sounds like a lot. It is a huge amount when you think about the quantity of the player base, right? 50% just above average. Average win ratio in World of Tanks is 49, but when people start to get to 55, they start to consider themselves to be pretty darn good at the game, right? So it always blows my mind to think that the only difference between somebody who wins 50% of their games and somebody who wins 55, or somebody who wins 55 and 60, where you would consider yourself to be an excellent player of World Tanks, right, is just winning one extra game out of 20 that the person in the lower bracket would have lost. So this is why you'll see me beat myself up so much on stream when I see that there was a game that I could have won. About 80% of games in World of Tanks are winnable if you play incredibly well, outside of a platoon, I believe. And about 40% of the games you can't really lose, no matter how bad you would play. Now, of course, you might get a run of games where you're constantly getting those games which you just can't manage to win, right? It happened to me. I lost 13 out of 14 games just a couple of weeks ago, but now I'm winning a lot, and it's because of impacts that I have in my battles. And impacts like this, knowing when you might be able to sneak in and make a play that can completely change the way that a game is going. So in this scenario, we've used our turbo, our experimental turbo, to slip into a position that now it's almost impossible for our opponents to be able to counter. The only way that they're going to dig me out of this position is if they drive from here to here and expose themselves to the STRV, maybe even to the tank destroyers, the DBVs that you see at the back, or alternatively, maybe just the Mouse, the 705A, and the Badger who will be looking after me. But by making a play that not a lot of players would have the confidence to make, to try and see that opportunity to be able to escape through, and also to be using pieces of equipment that allow you to make these plays, like the durability device, which means that if my tracks get hit, they won't get taken off, at least unless they hit multiple times. To use a turbo, which not everyone is using on their heavies, right? To be able to turn a slow lumbering tank into a fast one. These plays are what make a difference in your win ratio. And also they'll make a difference in the amount of damage that you deal and the amount of spotting that you will get, hopefully, in some situations. And we see that the Type 71 is trying to dig me out, and it's just not going to work because I know that I've got players who are going to be able to create a crossfire, and they're just going to be in a very awkward situation where they can't retake this dip in front of it. So one of the main things that you have to do as a player, if you want to get better at World of Tanks, is to look at the minimap, look for opportunities, try them, see if they work, see if they don't work, gauge the situation, but there's no way that you're going to get above 49 or 55% win ratio unless you're making plays that other players wouldn't have thought of, because you can only get so good at doing the micro correctly. And when I say the micro, I mean the ins and outs. You know, the perfect aim, no knowledge of weak points, managing to hit those shells, right? You haven't got your mouse DPI too high, so your sensitivity isn't too high, so you can actually still manage to have a fairly smooth aim, right? One of the biggest mistakes that players make in the history of World of Tanks is they have their sensitivity too high. And I think I was even one of those players until about 5-6 years ago when I started to lower it significantly. And then once you've managed to get the micro into a good position, the only way that you're going to then improve is by looking at the macro plays and the tactics that you incorporate, and being involved inside the battle. So I want to get back to highlight that point. And look how close this game is. Even though we're up to 4,000 damage, we're still down by 2,000 hit points compared to the enemy team. Now, I'd like to ask the question, considering that we were losing the East there, do you think this game would have been winnable if we didn't make that play? Maybe if I just sat back and tried to use my turret armor and get lucky. But by having this position, I'm just opening up the entire map. I'm preventing my opponents from making their way up this slope, making their way over here, and using their gun depression, and creating an enveloping play and pincering our opponents, and just finishing off tanks down towards the town as well. And maybe this is bold, maybe this is egotistical, but I think without this play, this game could have been a loss. Very easily could have been a loss. Because if you think about the 5,000 damage, excluding the blind that we've dealt so far, and also, by making this play, we're allowing our team to get easy shots in, right? The Type 71 who tried to interrupt us, or try and retake this position. The E100 who came up here to try and deal with us. It's allowing our team, and we're down to 2 tanks now, an IS-7 who's a one-shot and a Mouse who's a one-shot, to be able to farm these players. So by making plays like this, by creating angles, you also allow the players on your team who are, on average, going to be average players to excel inside World of Tanks. And quite often, it's your duty as, hopefully, a knowledgeable, outstanding player, right? Again, this video is for those players out there who want to try and have an impact and want to get better. I'm not saying that you have to do this, to have all these kind of impacts. And please don't feel concerned if you're not able to consider this. World of Tanks isn't just about winning. World of Tanks is about having fun. And I'd far rather be a happy little strawberry enjoying the game with my whatever win ratio, my whatever statistics, than some salty unicorn who just isn't having any fun playing the game anymore, right? But this video is for those players who want to try and get better. And so, remember, the only difference between a 55% win rate player and a 60, or a 60 and a 65, is that each bracket that you go up, you're only winning 1 in 20 games more. And I do feel that this was one of those 1 in 20 games, where through an exceptional push play that our opponents really didn't expect, we snowballed the game into our favor. This was undoubtedly a close one, but I think the enemies would have won. And that's the reality of World of Tanks. That, as I said at the start of this game, that you're going to win 40% of your battles, no matter how badly you play, unless you intentionally troll your allies. However, you could win up to 80% of your games, depending on how big, bold, and perfect your plays are. Round 2 is about the Tier 9 British heavy tank, the Contender, with a double barrels. That means double the opportunities, right, for us to be able to handle our opponents. The Contender is a very solid vehicle with a surprising amount of hit points, 2060 even without using a durability on this vehicle. I'm not sure I've even got all of the field mods. It's a big old tank, very flexible, fantastic for a variety of situations that you're going to be able to get yourself into, and really you can't replace that. You can't replace that on the battlefield. Anytime you play a tank that is flexible, that's able to handle its way through scenarios, or to just be able to deliver a double tap like that right at the start of the battle, you can't make up for statistics. So while I am highlighting that 80% of games are winnable, let me clarify, that'll probably be 80% of games if you're kind of like the best player in the world that's also playing very good tanks that are elited, that have all of the advantages, you know, the premium consumables, the crew skills, this and that, how it all adds up within that regard. And all of these advantages, they do add up. We can see that I obviously don't have all of the field mods on this tank because I haven't taken the second slot bonus. And if I was to have the second slot bonus on this vehicle, that aiming device, it would go from 5% up to, I believe, 7% inside the slot. And that 2% accuracy, that can be the difference from either winning kind of like 80% of your games, which are absolutely, utterly max winnable, to that 1% or 2% accuracy might be the difference to you then only being able to win kind of like 79%. And this is seen on my free-to-play account, where I don't use a premium consumable on the vast majority of my tanks. Only my Clan Wars reward tanks I use premium consumables on that I don't have on my main account. And I win about 62% of my games, or sorry, 60% overall on that account, but on my main account, where I play with premium consumables, I'm winning like 62% of my games. Now, a lot of you might be saying, well, QB 62 doesn't sound like 80%. And that's quite right. I remember that's 62 overall. So that'll be playing some of the most horrendous vehicles. And it'll also factor in that I'm not the best player, for sure. I'm not the best player. If I was better, then I'd probably have kind of like 65, 69, even maybe 70% wins solo on the overall account if I was able to play perfect in every single one of my games. But again, the only difference between, for example, my 62% and I could get 67% would be finding that 1 in 20 games which I could win. And in this game, it was having the insight or the having the awareness on the minimap to see that T100 LT was going to be able to make their way into my artillery. And so, if we pause for a second, imagine how different this game would be if I didn't stop that T100 LT going for our 2 arty. We can see that this position is lost. I couldn't go and support the can opener. I can't really support that moisture. I have to try and find a position that can actually be defended. So in this scenario, what strengths do we have? Well, our strengths are that we've still got 2 artillery that we've kept alive, and also we have an FE215B 183 who's outside my render distance, and there he appears, right? So what I can do is create an ambush against my opponents, and then hopefully be able to, as I've left myself giant on the screen the whole time, sorry, to be able to actually make something work. So I didn't really want to chill in that position. I didn't feel like that was best. I think a better angle would for me to be over here, but I didn't feel like I could cross from there to there safely without taking a hit. And so I'm going to try and use the turbo on this vehicle to slinky up on this slope and be able to just boost up here and then, yeah, no, not with an M103 there. Too late. So I probably should have been a little bit quicker. But nevertheless, it's now going to be me holding back on like 5 tanks. And one thing I recommend is that when someone helps you out like that, a quick turn and an F4 on them to give thanks, and they'll want to do it again, for sure. Oh, we actually only penned 1 out of 2 there. A bit of a misplay there by me. I really want to get some shots. So we're going to use the 705 to protect myself from the IS-32's double. But also, I don't want to fall down right now. I want to keep the high ground. The FV once again hits the IS-32. And we've just lured them into a horrible crossfire for these tier 9 heavies. I'm going to give the FV a thumbs up while I've got my 16-second reload. And I know that he's probably going to be reloaded at about 5 or 6 seconds as well. So am I going to just keep face-hugging or am I going to fall back? I think I want to face-hug here just so I can keep myself alive. But the FV actually manages to dump him as well. I'm going to give him another thanks, even though I felt like I had that one. And that last one, it wasn't sarcastic. It was incredibly genuine. And just like that, in a Tech Tree Tier 9 tank, we've managed to get ourselves 7,000 combined in 5 minutes and turn a flank that was looking like an absolute disaster into a very decent hold and hopefully also be able to carry this game. And those are the situations that you have to look for. Did I say 7K? I meant 8,200. But those are the situations that you have to look for. And those kind of scenarios, that's awareness on the minimap, but also it is about being on that map 100 times, 1,000 times, being in that position where you see that you're getting overwhelmed constantly as well, and then knowing what the counterplays are. Just like we did on the E100 on the Westfield map, where, looks like my RNG ran out. And who knows, in a really close game, maybe it's the fact that I don't have a bounty aiming device, or maybe the fact that I don't have that bonus slot from the field mod, that I don't hit that shell. But as I was saying, with the E100 game, it's just about pushing that position and knowing how strong it is. And knowing how that position can dominate. Right from the start of the game, if I've got an IS-7, I'll try and rush over. But it's about kind of like putting yourself into those scenarios, putting yourself into those loose situations. 8,400 combined here for the contender was one of those. So know when it's time to fall back. Know when it's time to have to give up a tank or two. And there's no doubt that I did that here. I had to give up, I believe it was the can opener that was in this position. There was no way for me to be able to help him. But by falling back, we made other tanks useful, and we took the game down. So, third helping of gameplay today. We're going to find ourselves in a very tricky scenario for a DZ T159 later on in the game. And that's definitely later, because the DZT-159 at the start of the game is absolutely fabulous. You know, you've got these rockets to get into position pretty much faster than most, like 90% of the medium tanks in the game can. And then you've got that big old 122mm with 440 alpha. And good AP rounds, good overmatching opportunity with the 122 as well against 40mm plates. And yeah, this thing's brutal. Got a lovely turret and enough camo as well by the looks of it, with this bush allowing us to not get spotted by the E50. And when we can see him and they can't see us, then that means that we can just expose ourselves more, right? Although maybe not that much, right? Fuel tanks. Last thing you want to have damaged on a vehicle that doesn't use a premium consumable. Fuel tanks are just as dangerous to have damaged as the ammo rack in a way. Although ammo rack's definitely still more dangerous. All right, don't get me wrong. But if you leave your fuel tanks damaged and you get shot in the same place again, it's a guaranteed fire, pretty much. So make sure you repair them, unless you've got a fire extinguisher. But as soon as your fire extinguisher is on cooldown, you should repair your fuel tanks, because you get set on fire again, is what I'm trying to suggest. So in this kind of a situation, let's get forwards. Let's try and allow all of my friends behind me to push. And one thing that I see that a lot of players don't do is they sit in a safe position where nothing's going wrong, but they don't think about what they can make go right. And without a shadow of a doubt, the better players, the people who have 55, the people who have 60, the people who have 65% wins in World of Tanks, they are always trying to push an advantage. But not recklessly. They got to know when it's time to just hold the position because the scenario will improve. If you're wondering what I'm doing there, I'm trying to shoot the tree down so that I can be able to use that bush to try and spot over and the building that you see that I'm highlighting on the map over here. So I'm going to load, I guess, a heat round here for the top. Or maybe an AP round because I'm thinking about overmatching now. But whatever. I can overmatch if I fire up into the tracks of the T-95. Luckily they miss us. Hopefully I'm going to fire up here and just try and find that angle. But unfortunately I fire into the ridge too late. So poor shot by me. And every shot counts in these kind of games. Now the T-95 is healthy. And it's going to be much harder to dig them out. And we're going to have to dig them out quickly. Because you see the health bar at the top of the screen? This is something that you always need to be assessing. You always need to be looking at the hit point difference between the teams, the amount of kills, because it will show how aggressive you might have to play. If you see that the other flank is completely whiffed, well then you're probably going to have to take more chances on this flank to see if you can be able to handle it and then be able to drop back. Wow, I didn't expect a T-103 to be in that position, but luckily for me that's an easy shot and a good amount of assistance. I would say the artillery landed that shot, but it was actually the VK7501K. I'm going to put one into the back of the T-95. A little bit of a misplay there by me. I should have probably hit the tracks to lock this guy down. But then again, he is using a durability device. And I think it's better if I just try and get him to turn and slowly grind him down. And it doesn't matter if that T-95 looks like they got 2 marks of excellence and how powerful that vehicle is. They're shut down. So again, map awareness. Base must be defended. And communicate with your allies as well. We're going to put defend in caps to just try and get the team working on the same thing. And I'm going to suggest to my VK, and I believe my Tiger as well, the SU, to fall back. Because the last thing that you want is to kind of like split up in this kind of a scenario. It's most likely the enemy team will actually split their forces. Some of them might go back to defend their cap circle, and some of them will push on. And that comes down to just what a player prioritizes in their mind, right? But the benefit for us is that if we all fall back and they split up, then we might have a chance to come back into this game. And I was really worried because when you're down by 5,000 hit points, we've got half the hit points the enemy team has. I was really hoping that I was going to spot them and they were all going to be a one-shot, but it looks like they absolutely crushed the other flank, although there might still be some low health tanks on the enemy team. Let me clarify, one of the biggest mistakes that I see some beginners make is that they don't realize that hit points don't update unless you're within the render distance of the tank. So the hit points at the top of the bar and all of these vehicles that we see on the minimap, we don't know how many hit points they're on. They're not on full hit, well, they might be on full hit points, but they're probably not on full hit points after fighting that other flank. And so keep that in your mind, that it will not update, and so the situation that you see is as bad as it can be, but it can always be better. Now we got spotted making our way into this position. at 8 minutes, roughly about 9 minutes into the game. Let's see what I can do now and when I'm going to get spotted next. If I am going to get spotted against these opponents. So in this situation, it's just bush mechanics. It's knowing that they're heavies and I'm a medium and I have way, way, way better camera rating than they do. And that means that I can be able to use these bushes and they can't. And right now, once again, what you see me doing is creating a gun line. We're holding back, again, very healthy vehicles here in the form of the M103. And I have all of my friends behind me. This is what you have to do sometimes as a player. In your medium tanks and your light tanks. And sometimes in your faster heavies. You have to be the hero for the team. It's a reality if you want to start to try and push your statistics to that next level. It's not enough to just be an individual hero. It's also about trying to see what you can enable your team to do. And in this situation, they can chill at the back. They've all fallen back as well. Every single one of them, I believe, fell back with the suggestions that I made. And we've already changed this now. So we had the same number of hit points that we do now. We have not lost a single hit point. I'm not just talking about myself. I think I'm talking about my entire team. And I'm not only thinking about what I have to do, I'm also suggesting to my team what they should do as well. I suggest somebody watch back. Because in that kind of a situation, I was pretty sure that a lot of the vehicles here have actually rotated back towards their own cap circle, and they might try and sneak up behind my friends. If they sneak up behind my friends and they spot them, then this chopper in the M103 is going to be able to shoot them, and suddenly we're going to start losing HP. This Tiger's being very bold. He's getting forwards as well. He wants to come fight it out, doesn't want to snipe in that situation. And we haven't been spotted yet. If you see me having a moment right now with me wiggling my mouse, that's still because we can't really feather the... I want to know where the edges of the vehicles are. And that 252U gets shut down by SU-130 PM. I press F5. I'm happy about that. HE shell, the final HE shell into the chopper. It's still not spotted for the last 2.5 minutes in this game. And I'm hoping, just hoping, nah, we're not going to manage it. But oh well, you know, this M103, they're low. Let's go after them, right? I think we can reveal ourselves to the enemy team now. And so we were last spotted at 9 minutes, 2 minutes and 40 seconds ago. This Tiger's giving me a nice thumbs up there. Now we're finally willing to reveal ourselves to the M103 in a game that is now neck and neck. Previously, they outnumbered us by double our hit points, and we've just managed to claw back 6,000 hit points off the enemy team while only losing 1,300 off our team. And it's just about hoping that the Rain and the BZ-58 and the Jagdpanther are low enough on health. And just like that, we took a game that... I know maybe this is egotistical. I think 90% of players would have lost this battle. I don't think they would have got back, and I don't think that they would have been able to work those bushes. Now, what I did, it didn't really require an insane amount of skill. It was just about being in the right place at the right time. And that's what's so beautiful about this game. This game isn't all about jumping around, getting headshots on your opponents, right? It's not all about the first shot, clutch-based shooters. It's not all about speed, your micro, how you're able to play on an individual Twitch-based combat style. This game is so much about just reading the minimap, looking at what play needs to be done, and trying to communicate with your allies to enable that to happen. And now, don't get me wrong, the vast majority of the time, people aren't going to bother reading, people aren't going to want to work together. But I'd say still about like 40 or 50% of the time, the message can get through. So one of my big tips for all of you is don't give up with regards to still trying to work with your allies. Use the Z radial, use kind of like F2 to say that you'll support, F4 to say thank you, the T key, at least for me, to say fire at this target or I'm going to help you. And it just feels oh so wonderful, so rewarding when you come together to make a huge comeback in this game. We only lost 2,000 hit points for the 10,000 that our opponents had. And an individually good result here as well, with 7,300 combined. So my challenge to all of you who want to get better at World of Tanks is firstly recognize the games that were winnable and try and figure out why you didn't win them. And the only thing that's stopping you from going from being a 50% win rate player to a 55, or a 50 to a 60, or a 60 to a 65 is winning one extra game in 20 battles. And if you can be the one to make the difference, that is how you can have the impact on not only the battle, but also the impact on your overall statistics on your account. So look for that play that will make the difference. It can be really hard to figure it out at first, but if you're not actively looking, it doesn't matter how many games of World of Tanks you play, you're never going to find it. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And sound off in the comments if you've got any tips and tricks on how players can improve their awareness. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.